So I used to know this girl who would constantly say things like, guys, sorry, I'm so ugly. I just ruined the whole group photo, I'm sorry. And then everyone would automatically comfort her and be like, no, you're beautiful, you shine. And then she would be like, no, but thank you. And she would do the same thing over and over again, trying to get everyone's attention. So eventually I got tired. So the next time she came to me saying, I'm so ugly, I was like, you know what? You are. She was like, what'd you say? And I was like, bitch, if you think you're ugly, I can crop you out of the photo. The fuck do you want me to tell you? I'm not the one who made you look like a woolly mammoth.
Story time of how I found out my boyfriend was cheating on me with my cousin. My boyfriend and I had been together for 2.5 years. His family loved me and my family loved him and they expected us to get married. Well, last year when COVID started, we were actually in different countries, so we didn't see each other for 3 months. During those 3 months, we FaceTimed 4 times a day, and we were always texting. He happened to be quarantining in our hometown, so both of our families were in the same place. I was quarantined in a different country. One day my cousin calls me and tells me that she met a really nice guy on a dating website. I was so happy for her because she had had bad luck with guys. Every single week, her and I would catch up on the phone and she would tell me how much she liked this guy, and how amazing their dates were, and how amazing he was in bed, how sweet and considerate he was. I couldn't be happier for her. Well, when I finally get back home, my boyfriend is super distant and cold. So naturally, I called my cousin and complained. She told me to give him space. She said I should just leave him alone. And so like an idiot, I did leave him alone. One day my cousin calls me and tells me to come over for dinner. When I got there, my boyfriend's car was parked in her garage. I thought it was just her nice way of trying to get us to talk. I'd walk in and catch them doing the dirty on the couch, come back for part 2. So I walk in on my cousin and my boyfriend doing the dirty on her couch. They quickly get up from the couch and get dressed. Of course, by that time, I'm in hysterics. I'm crying and yelling. My boyfriend instantly got on his knees and begged me for forgiveness. I went up to my cousin and I punched her right in the face. She wasn't expecting that. And I said, well, this is the guy that you've been dating, isn't it? She said yes, and that she was just trying to find the best way to tell me. And so she just thought the best way to tell me was to get me to walk in on her and him doing the dirty. I punched her again. My boyfriend came to her rescue though. Instantly went into hero mode, which made me even angrier, so I punched him too. I stormed out of her house and went back to my house. Well, I told my parents everything. And my dad went over to my uncle's house, my cousin's dad, and he told him everything. She was about to turn 19, so he took away her phone and her car. And I get a phone call from my ex, come back for part 3. Part 3. So my lying, cheating ex calls me and explains to me why he actually slept with my cousin. He said that he was so lonely and that he didn't know what to do, and that the closest thing to me he could find was my cousin. Right, as if that was any comfort to me. He said I should be grateful that I didn't cheat with someone else. I told him he had totally betrayed my trust and that I could never ever trust him again. And then he confessed that she was pregnant, and that his parents wanted them to get married. He said he just wanted to give me a heads up. Then he said that we could still be together, but just not tell anyone, so basically he wanted me to be his side piece. I couldn't believe the words that were coming out of his mouth. It was like I didn't know this man. Guess what I did? I recorded the entire conversation. So I went straight to my cousin, and I let her listen to it. She was story time about how I found out my high school boyfriend was stalking me for weeks after we broke up. My junior year of high school, I had a super controlling and jealous boyfriend. He would get totally upset and jealous over the smallest thing, and he was so envious of my modeling and acting career. He also tried to control my social life. I couldn't have friends, and I never went out. If I had a photo shoot, he always insisted on going. My family hated the way he treated me. He was also just angry and upset all the time, so even when we hung out, it wasn't a fun time. I decided to break up with him over the phone because I knew if I did it in person, he would have made a scene. Of course, he begged me not to break up with him. I told him I just couldn't handle his jealousy and his envy. He really couldn't take no for an answer, so he would show up to my house and beg me to go for car rides with him because he just wanted to talk. I always said no because I was scared of him. I also called my family's house to see if I was there or not. One day I was driving home from school and I noticed he was right behind me. I texted him to stop following me. He said, I'm not behind you, that's not me. I literally pulled over, and when I did that, he sped off. Later, he came to my house and tried to force me into his car. Come back for part 2. So my jealous and controlling ex-boyfriend shows up to my house. Mind you, he had been following me the entire day, and when I told him to stop following me, he said it wasn't him. I heard his car pull up, I went outside and I told him politely to please leave. That's when he grabbed my arm and pulled me towards his car. I opened his car door and literally tried to throw me inside the car. I put my feet up against the car and I pushed myself as hard as I could. I was not going to let him force me into that car. When he saw how hard I was fighting, he started to cry and he said, why can't we just take a ride and talk? I told him there was nothing to talk about and that he needed to just let me go. He said, you can't get rid of me that easily. Then he sped off in his car. At the time, I was working at a cafe near my my house. So I show up to my job the next day and my boss tells me to go into her office right away. She pulls up camera security footage of the restaurant and then she says, "Tell me if you recognize anyone." Guess who I see? My ex-boyfriend looking through the window 2 hours before the restaurant even opened. Then he went to his car and sat there until I arrived, and when he saw my car pull up, he left really fast. When my shift was over, I walked to my car and I can see my ex hiding behind the tree next to my car. I'm back for part 3, it's scary. My crazy jealous ex had been stalking me for days and I could see him hiding behind a tree next to my car. I run back into my job and I tell my boss right away. She calls the cops, but they say they can't come unless I've been physically threatened. The rest of the week, I noticed him following me to school and wherever I would go. Saturday comes around and I go back to my job. Once again, my boss tells me to go into her office because she has something to show me. He pulls up more camera security footage and shows me that my boyfriend had been going to my job every single day before it opened to see if I was there. And he would stay for hours waiting in his car. I felt so sick to my stomach. I get home, I tell my mom everything, and then she calls his mom. Well, his mom took his phone and his car away. It was the only way to stop him from following me. Finally, he left me alone. A few years later, I found out he became really good friends with my brother. Came home from school one summer, and he actually tried to kiss me in the kitchen several times, and I told him no. He didn't speak to me after that. Story time about how my ex caught me cheating on him. My ex was the biggest player in my college. All the girls knew him and everyone warned me not to hang out with him. Of course I didn't listen. He asked me to be his girlfriend and I said yes, of course. We had been going out for a few months, but every time he would go to a frat party, I would hear from someone else that he had been cheating on me or that he was trying to hook up with other girls. And I would ask him about it. He would absolutely deny it and say that people were just trying to separate us because they were envious of our relationship. I believed him a little bit, but something told me I shouldn't. So of course I decided to check his messages, and guess what? I found a bunch of messages between him and girls that he went to class with. I confronted him and he denied everything. He said those were not his messages and that I was probably making things up. He deleted the messages before I could take screenshots. It was around the time of my birthday and I was planning a party and I told him he couldn't come to my party because I was upset at him. I made sure to invite a friend of his to my party who I knew had a crush on me. So his friend and I got really cozy at my party. We started hanging out every single day after come back for part 2. So my cheating boyfriend didn't show up to my birthday party. Instead, I invited one of his friends who I knew had a crush on me. Let's call him Bob. Well, Bob and I started hanging out all the time. Behind my boyfriend's back, of course. My boyfriend and I would hang out less and less. Well, Bob started catching feelings and he asked me to break up with my boyfriend and to basically come clean to him. And I said no. I had no intention of leaving my boyfriend. I just wanted to get revenge. And honestly, it felt really good to do that. Bob got really upset because I didn't want to break up with my boyfriend and he went off. I started hearing rumors around the school about me hooking up with Bob. My boyfriend asked me about it and I said, I don't know where that's coming from. I haven't hooked up with anyone. My boyfriend didn't believe me. My boyfriend went to a party that night and he didn't invite me, which of course, you know what that means. I asked Bob if we could hang out, so I went over to his place. We're on his couch kissing and my boyfriend comes in through the door. Part 3. So while I'm hooking up with Bob on his couch, my boyfriend walks in through the door. Bob got up from the couch and went and stood next to my boyfriend. And my boyfriend just begins to say, I knew that you were cheating on me. You see, I knew it. Rumors were true. And I said, well, you've been cheating on me for months since we started dating. Then Bob pipes up and says, look, I'm sorry I did this to you, but it had to be done. I slowly started to realize that I had been set up by both of them. I went back to my dorm and I didn't speak to them for a few days. My boyfriend was calling and begging me to get back with him. He said he would forgive me for the cheating if I forgave him for cheating on me. But Bob was also messaging me asking me to be his girlfriend. He said he'd never cheat on me like my boyfriend did and that he really had feelings for me. Well, I didn't get back with my boyfriend, but we're hooking up. And I'm still hooking up with Bob too, but I made a promise that he wouldn't tell my ex. I did find out that my ex cheated on me with 15 girls. And that's on toxic. Story time about how this one girl bullied me so bad she tried to beat me up, but guess what? The joke was on her because my sister beat her up. I was in 8th grade and I was bullied pretty badly, but this one girl in particular who didn't like me would make my life miserable. This girl was in 10th grade and I was in 8th grade at the time. I didn't defend myself at the time. I was really just scared of everything and everyone because I got bullied so much. And my sister knew that, which is why she was always looking out for me. She always had my back. So the bully, let's call her Jackie. Jackie started leaving me mean notes in my locker. And at the time, I guess I didn't really know if it was her. It could have been many people since I got bullied by many people. And the kids in my class would group around me whenever I would go to open my locker just to see my reaction when I would read the mean things she left in the notes. So for example, she would make fun of my acne and my big lips. But it got so much worse. One day I was walking down the hallway and she comes up right behind me and spills fake blood all over my back, making it look like I had my period. I was mortified, and she did this in front of everyone when we were on break. Then in front of everyone, she says that she's gonna beat me up at lunch and that I better be there, so come back for part 2. Part 2. So Jackie the bully spilled fake blood down my back, making it look like I had my period, and then she announced to everyone that she was going to beat me up at lunch and that I better be there. The bell rings and someone tells me that she's waiting for me at the soccer field. My god, I was so scared. Of course I wasn't planning on going, but 3 of the girls in my class literally took me by my arms and took me to the soccer field. Gosh, were they mean. And of course, there's a whole audience waiting for me. Jackie was right in the center. As soon as I get there, she starts yelling at me. And you know what I did? I asked her, "Why do you hate me so much?" She actually didn't know what to say. She stayed quiet. So I asked her, "What did I do to you?" Then she said she saw me on a commercial in our local channel and that it made her really angry. And I said, "Is that all?" Then she said that she didn't like my face either. She starts pushing me backwards. She pushed me a few times and I fell back. She was literally about to kick me when I hear my sister yelling from behind the crowd saying, "Why don't you pick on someone your own size?" The crowd parts and my sister comes through and tells Jackie to leave me alone. Then she tried to kick me again and my sister tackled her to the ground. Come back for part 3. Part 3. As Jackie the bully is trying to kick me, my sister tackles her to the ground. Well, Jackie got really scared because she was not expecting that. And my sister picks her up from the floor and throws her into a bush. Jackie starts to cry and she says that she's going to tell on my sister. Well, my sister says, "I have all the notes that you've been sending to my sister and we can compare it to your own handwriting." Guess who they'll believe? My sister took me to the principal's office and we gave her all of the notes and I told her everything that happened. So the principal went and searched Jackie's backpack. Guess what she found? Scissors and tape. Jackie confessed that she wanted to tie my hands and cut off all my hair. She got suspended from school for 3 days. When she came back, her parents took her to my classroom and made her apologize in front of everyone. If you're being bullied, story time about how my fiance broke off our wedding because of my best friend. My fiance and I had been together for 2 years, but my best friend and I had been friends for over 8 years, so I trusted her with my life. When my fiance and I met, she approved and she loved him. She was always looking for a new relationship because she could never commit to anyone. Eventually, I started feeling like she was envious of the relationship because I had found someone that I truly loved and that wanted to marry me. On the other hand, she was a serial dater and went out with so many guys she couldn't even keep track. One night we had a double date and she brought this new guy she met. Throughout the whole date, my fiance and my best friend were hitting it off, talking, making jokes, and I was actually really happy because I was happy they got along. Her date even noticed this and commented about how we should switch dates. I thought it was so funny. Well, little did I know that after that night, they actually started texting every once in a while. Inside jokes and memes, stuff like that. I did know about it and I thought it was really cute and I was so happy that they were getting along. After all, she was going to be the godmother of our future children. One day I saw she sent him a picture through text message. You'll never get part 2. So I noticed my best friend sent my fiance a picture and he was in the bathroom, so I went ahead and opened the picture. You guys, it was a selfie of her wrapped in a towel fresh out of the shower. So of course I show it to him and he's like, "Oh my god, why would she send that?" He totally played it off like he had no idea why she would send that to him. So I call my best friend and I say, "Hey, did you just send my fiance this picture?" She hesitated for a second and then she's like, "Oh my god, please don't tell me I sent him the picture by mistake." And I was like, "Yeah, you sent him a picture of you in a towel." And she said, "I'm so mortified, I'm so sorry, I meant to send it to somebody else." And then she's like, "You believe me, right?" And part of me didn't want to, but part of me had to. I couldn't believe that my best friend would do that, so I said, "Yeah, of course I believe you." And she completely changed the subject and told me about the guy that she was currently seeing who she actually meant to send the picture to. A few weeks passed by and my fiance says he has to go on a work trip. Weirdly enough, she said she was going to go on a trip with a guy that she had just met. I asked her to meet the guy before they actually went on a trip and she said no because he's really shy. Can you believe they went on this trip together? Come back for part 3. Part 3. So my best friend and my fiance go on a trip by themselves behind my back. The whole time they were on their trips, I thought he was on a work trip and I thought she was with some dude. Because of the time difference, my fiance kept saying that he couldn't FaceTime, so we would just talk on the phone. The conversations were really short and he was acting really strange. He told me he was on a work trip to London, and because the whole thing felt so strange, I decided to call his mom. So I call her and I'm like, "Hey, where did he travel to again?" And she replied, "Aruba." I didn't say anything to her and I just got off the phone. I knew he was lying. And I knew my best friend was in Aruba. I connected the dots and realized they were both on a vacation together. The day that he was supposed to fly in, I showed up to the airport knowing that he was coming from Aruba. And I see them walking out to arrivals hand in hand. They saw me right away, and my best friend literally ran away. That's when he told me that he no longer wanted to be with me and that he wanted to be with my best friend. He had already paid for the wedding. He was such a coward. 2 months later, I found out she cheated on him, and he came back to me. I said no.
Bye, sisters!